Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and we're going to talk about today some insight in guidance counseling at the high school to go to college. My guest today is Christine Abrams. She's a supervisor for counseling at Hopewell Valley Regional High School. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, no problem. So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I went to a lot of schools. I have a lot of degrees, so I can start. I did my undergraduate work at Hunter College in New York City, which is part of the CUNY system.
Okay.
And I got my BA in English there with a minor in education, then my MA there in teaching ESL.
Wow.
And then when I relocated to New Jersey, I got a degree in counseling. So I'm a licensed therapist in New Jersey, and I'm also a school counselor, so I got a license in that. And then after that, I went on to my doctorate at Rowan in educational leadership. So
Fantastic.
I love school. Clearly. Yeah.
You've done a lot of years.
Yes.
So let's go back in time. How did you end up picking Hunter College to begin with? What was the process that you took? Was mom and dad involved? How did it all work?
Okay, actually, my parents weren't involved at all because neither of them had a college degree. So they didn't know what to do. And my school counselor really felt I should apply to an Ivy League school. But I had a very bad experience in high school where I had to transfer high schools. I went to one of the premier high schools in New York City called Stuyvesant High School. And it wasn't a good experience. And I ended up transferring to a different school. So in my child's mind, I said, I don't want to go to an Ivy League and have the same experience. I just want to go, I want to be a teacher. So I want to go to a school where I won't have any debt. And I can just do my thing, study English. And so, CUNY has a number of schools like any state university. There's a State University of New York, and then there's the City University of New York. Right. So I didn't want to go away to school, which I think is unheard of now. Many students want to get away. I really wanted to stay at home. I was young. I graduated high school when I was 16. Wow. And I knew personally I would not have made it if I went away and didn't have my parents to sort of guide me.
Interesting.
So at the time you were able to choose 10 schools, city schools, and I ended up, Hunter was my first choice because it was very well known for teaching.
Right.
And interestingly enough, they didn't let me major in education. I had to have a traditional major with a minor in education, which was really good because I love being an English major. So I applied to Hunter, and because of my grades, I got into their honors program, which released me from all undergraduate requirements except what I was interested in.
Whoa.
But being the type A that I am, I ended up taking everything I was that was required that I didn't have to take. So, yeah, so go figure. Anyhow, so that's where my experience was with Hunter, and it was a wonderful experience. And it was a commuter school, so I did not live away from home. I lived at home.
So you graduated college early as well?
Yes, I did.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's what prompted you to go into getting your master's and your doctorate.
Well, I did work. I bounced around and had a number of jobs, and then ended up teaching in a vocational high school in New York City, which I loved. And then felt like I needed to see more of what was out there. So interestingly enough, my liberal arts degree helped me get a job at a financial services firm. So I worked for Smith Barney for a year. I started as a secretary, which was fine because I could type very quickly. And so they hired me. But then a woman took me under her wing, and I had a very esoteric job called limited partnership analyst. Now, mind you, my background's not in math. Okay, just English, but they felt I was literate, I could speak, and I could probably do the math, and I could. So I got that job, and then ended up moving to Merrill Lynch and eventually became a vice president of marketing and diversity and education services.
Oh, wow.
And I had a sales career there, and so it was wonderful, but this was all for my liberal arts degree. So I didn't have a traditional major like accounting or finance.
Right.
And they just felt that at that point they could work with me and mold me because I didn't have any preconceived notions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So once you graduated from college and you've had all these different jobs, how do you get from that to becoming the supervisor at Hopewell Valley Regional High School in New Jersey?
That's a really good question. So I had an ESL degree. I got that while I was working at Merrill Lynch and Smith Barney. And then I got downsized from Merrill Lynch after 9/11. They had a huge downsize. And I was actually good with that because it was time for a change. I had been there for 15 years. And I always knew I wanted to go back into education because that was my first love.
Wow.
But I knew I didn't want to teach. I wanted something different. And I loved speaking to students. So at the time, I was stationed in New Jersey for Merrill Lynch. And I ended up, because I was unemployed, the state paid for my retread to get a better career. And so they paid for my tuition at TCNJ, where I went, and I went into the counseling department, the counseling program, and got licensed as a school counselor, and ended up working at another school district in New Jersey for about 5 years. And during that time, though, I really missed the supervisory aspect of what I was doing.
Sure.
So I went to a very great program called New Jersey Excel. It's an accelerated program to get your administrative licenses rather than getting yet another master's. And when I finished that, I landed the job at Hopewell Valley.
Wow.
So it was really great.
Yeah, interesting. So now, at Hopewell Valley, as I guess the supervisor of guidance counselors.
Yeah, for K-12. So I spanned the whole gamut.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what's the process that someone takes in high school to make a decision of where they want to go to college? What's that process?
It's not as complicated as people think. Well, kids really don't know what they want to do. You know, one day they want to be a doctor, the next day it's a lawyer. It's not clear. So our counselors are wonderful. They actually, they take a lot of time to sit with each student and try to craft where they want to go, what they're thinking of doing. They work together to come up with a list of schools, and parents are involved all the time with that. And I would say we don't focus too much on it in freshman and sophomore year. We really begin to focus on it in junior year, because that's when they're a little more mature, they've given it some thought. We do have programs early on, like in freshman year we have something called the Avatar program, where they become admissions counselors themselves and decide who's going to go where based on their grade point average and the courses they've taken. And so what we try to stress, we want them to be aware of that.
Yeah.
So for example, you know, one of the big myths it still perpetuates is in senior year, you know, you don't have to take much. You can just do the basket weaving, a little gym, you know, a couple required. No, you really have to. I mean, it's the end of the race. You really got to hang tough and take challenging classes. So colleges will look at that, because colleges may interpret as not interested really in going to school. So, and it's a lot different than the students' parents, who had a much easier time often getting in, and you know, it was a little more relaxed. So the counselors in sophomore year, we focus on career, right? Because they have a sense of maybe what I want to major in. And many times they'll change their major. My major was English. I ended up being in financial services. And you know, when I ask parents at our evening programs, how many of you are doing now what you plan to do when you got your BA? No hands go up. You know, it's true, and that's how life is, and now more so than ever, because I think what do the statistics say, that adults and young adults will be changing their jobs very frequently. So there isn't that, oh, I'm staying with this company until I die. It's okay, I'm going to see what else is happening. So we work with them in sophomore year on career. Then junior year, really, we meet with them. The counselors meet with them. Talk about getting a list together, encourage them to visit schools. And then actually over the summer, our counselors meet with those parents and students, the rising seniors, individually, to really map out a game plan for them. So we've got it covered A through Z. And you know, the students will change their minds. A lot of students are focused on, I've got to get into an Ivy. You don't. It's okay. I mean, there's such a small percentage of students that they accept, and because we're in the Princeton area, it's very focused on Princeton. And really, it's supposed to be good fit. That's what we advocate. Is it a good fit for you? Did you go on the campus and fall in love? Does it have the major you want? Can you switch majors? There's some schools who won't let you switch once you've gone in.
Wow.
So it's really, that's what we try to do with them.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Do you actually have some kind of pamphlet or something that you actually give the parents and
We
students?
have a number of things that we give the parents. There's a junior checklist. We have so much information on our website. We sometimes have videotaped evening programs. We'll have college admissions counselors come and speak to parents and students. Students are always invited to these. There's just so much information. And you know, what we've learned is that some people don't read, you know, people are more visual now. So now we're thinking of maybe pushing out material with short films or voiceover PowerPoint, so people can, and students and parents can watch them at their leisure. Because it's hard for people to come out. You know, our attendance is shrinking more and more for our evening programs because people are stretched.
Yeah.
And so why not give them the information that they can consume at their leisure?
Yeah, interesting. And so these these college nights and things like that, do they do it throughout the school year?
Yes.
That's what you're doing?
Yeah. In freshman year, we don't, it's a transition year for students, so we don't do much in terms of that. We have the counselors push into their rooms and they're meeting individually in small groups. Because even though in the way our school district is configured, we have the middle school is directly across the street from the high school, but it's still a big transition. New schedule, new teachers, different work. So we leave them alone. And then sophomore year, we have a sophomore college planning night, and we bring a wonderful speaker in from Guilford University who talks about what colleges look for. And there's so many colleges, don't worry, you'll get in. Don't stress.
Yeah.
And because students are so stressed today, it wasn't like that when I was growing up. It was a much easier process. And there's no need to be really, because they will get in. You just have to work hard, do the best you can, take the classes you're interested and passionate about. And then junior year, we have so many night programs, college essay writing night, or in a college director's admissions night. So they come in and speak. We have junior college planning night, senior college planning night for the senior.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes on there.
Yeah, so it's a wide variety of things that go on throughout. Are all the high schools in the United States like that, or is this just pretty much your particular district?
I think in Mercer County, many of us do the same. We also try to find out from parents, what do you want to see more of? I'm an advocate of having students explore different options. So we have the technical school, so we also give them an opportunity to speak to parents and students. Because some students might feel, I really want to be a hands-on mechanic, or I want to go to culinary arts. And I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You will have a fine career after that. And I say to parents, when you're looking at schools, be a consumer. Don't get bedazzled by the name, right? Or the rankings in U.S. News and World Report, which aren't the purest rankings around. I mean, because they're very subjective in many respects, because colleges are ranking each other.
Right.
So you have the same 3 or 4 in the top all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And I say to them, okay, so you do a lot of research on buying your car. You need to do that for the colleges, and you need to see what's the graduation rate, number one. How long does it take them to graduate? Now, I think even the government they have their government website, so you can compare costs, et cetera. But I think they're even estimating a 6-year graduation rate. No reason for it to be 6 years.
Wow.
You can get out in 4. You really can. And so parents should look, do they get out in 4? And why don't they get out in 4? And I always tell the parents, have your child call the admissions office and ask. Sometimes we had, at one of my evenings, I say to parents, now don't you call and make believe you're your child. And they laugh, because some of them do. But don't, don't do that. Put the responsibility on your child and have them call and say, how come people only, it takes them 6 years to get out of here? Why? And and that's good, because you're asking good questions. Also, look at job placement. Sometimes universities, to up their profile, will place students in jobs at the university. No. If they went to school to be a particular, occupation, they shouldn't be at the college working. Yeah. So and I say to parents, look for internships. Make sure they can get internships, because when you meet people on the job, you're a known quantity. So when it comes to the hiring and you've done a good job, they're going to say, I want to pick Anthony because I don't know these people. And Anthony's done a good job, right? And it's all about the relationship. So don't sit there like a bump on a log. We tell the students, talk, interact. And that's hard for this generation because of the phones. They're like this. I see them in the cafeteria and I'm like, aren't you? Yeah, we're texting each other. Oh my God,
They're right next to each other.
Right, and you've got to have that gift of gab in a sense. Okay, so that's what we tell. Now there's some occupations like engineering. It's a very strict protocol for school classes you have to take. And they need engineers. You will get a job. Not a big deal. But if you're going for liberal arts or any of the other colleges, you really have to be careful and look.
Yeah. How about tuition? Being that the tuition is so high at the college level these days, from $30,000 to $70,000 a year, what do you tell parents and students? Maybe they can't afford a particular school, but yet they're still going to apply to that school. Again,
I tell them, and this is a conversation students have to have with their parents, because the parents want to give them what they want out of love, right? And it's like, I want you to have everything I didn't have. You want to go to that school. It's wonderful. You should. But I tell the parents, do not take a second mortgage out on your house. You don't. There's no reason for it. We have a financial aid night. We have a wonderful gentleman who comes from HISA, which is the state organization that provides speakers, and does a great job, answers all these great questions about taxes and how to fill out your forms. But basically, I say to the parents, if you get offers from, I always say go where the money is. If you can get a full ride, I don't care what school it is, okay? Because you're going to make out of your education what you make out of it. And some of the schools, I mean, I know of one school that was not ranked very well. But what they did was they made tremendous financial aid offers to students who had really high SAT scores. And those are part of the rankings in US News and World. And they got all these great kids in, and now they've moved up, and kids are dying to get in because they're perceived as being a really excellent school.
Yeah.
Okay. So, they play games, and that's okay. It's a business. And I tell them college is a business. So you have to treat it like a business. So if you get an offer from 3 schools and your child loves school A above all else, and school A is not giving you a B or C, go back and negotiate. Say, listen, my child loves your school, bleeds your colors. What can you do? And that's it. All they can say is no.
Yeah.
And then it's your option. You say, no, fine then. I'll go somewhere else. If you really can't afford a 4-year, then go to community college. I think community college is great. It's got a bad rep. I'm not sure why. It's really unfounded. And particularly in New Jersey, if you're in the top, I think 10% or 15% of your class, you can get into the New Jersey STARS program. Pays for all of your community college, and then you can move on to a 4-year, and they'll cover part of that. That is an amazing deal.
Yeah.
And many schools, you have to check the school to see if your credits are transferable. Within New Jersey, they are.
Right.
But community college is great, and particularly, and the kids balk because, I have to stay home with my parents. At that point, you might even be able to get them an apartment, and it's cheaper. And there are some community colleges, one in Pennsylvania, that has housing.
Wow.
So it'll be a little more in Pennsylvania, but because you're not a resident, but they have housing, and it's a great school.
Interesting.
So you have to really look for this. But community college is wonderful because, let's face it, you're going to be taking the same classes anyway at a 4-year. And I'm sorry, American history or whatever you have to take is the same all over. No one's got a lock on American history. It's really pretty much, it is what it is, And that's why I tell students, when you want to be a psychology major, why are you going to Harvard? I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So think about your major, think where you can do it in the cheapest way. And do you want to be a small fish in a big pond because if you're going to a very, very, very competitive school, all those students are going to be very competitive. So although you may be at the top of your game at your high school, you may not be at the school you go to.
Right.
So why do you want to go through that? Right? Because it's really just a means to an end. So, or do you want to be a big fish in a small pond? You go to a public school that has an honors program, you get into that, you have more access to professors. It just makes more sense. It's cheaper, and they probably will give you money toward this.
Interesting. Is everyone at your school all as knowledgeable as you are?
Oh my God, my counselors are amazing. Like, they will talk about this. I mean, and the thing is, because we live it, and it's funny because when we get parents who have never been through it, I feel for them because they're terrified. They're like, it's not like it was when I did. That's right, it's not, but it's not hard. And we're here to help you, and we walk them through the whole process. And we just try to say, educate yourself. Stop being mystified. It's not a big mystery. It's school. What
changes have you seen over the years from the parents to now the students that are there now?
I think it hit me in, the class of 2007 way back. They didn't want to leave the high school. And I was at a different district. They pretty much, and all the counselors, we worked as a team, we were astounded. They basically came and said, we're not ready to go. We don't want to go. We're terrified. I'm not sure why that happened, but it seems since that time, it's hard to get the students and the parents to focus on leaving. They do, but they don't. And over the years, I've seen a lot of parents are much more, they hover more over their students, and we try to explain that we understand you're doing this out of a place of love and protection, but the message the students are getting is, oh my God, I'm not adequate, I can't do this. Right? Yeah. So we do see a lot of students who go off and then they're just like, and they come back. And It's not that they're not academically prepared. It might be a social emotional thing where they've had so many protections and props that they just can't get out there and succeed on their own.
Now, do you see a lot of students doing a lot of extracurricular activities, sports, theater, dance, volunteering?
At the high school?
At the high
Absolutely.
school.
I mean, sports teams. We have so many activities. They do them all. But for college, they don't want to see you, unlike when I grew up, they wanted to see you had to be well-rounded. Now you have to be passionate. So whatever your passion is, follow that through. And they're smart. They know if you're going to do Habitat for Humanity between your junior and senior year, and you've never done anything like this before, this is just for the college resume. Okay, so don't do that. But, it's true. But I think kids are passionate about things. I had a boy who, we did a college essay writing night. And the exercise was write about something you really love. And he said, raised his hand, he says, no one's going to care about that because what I really love is the taste of food. I said, well, give me an example. He says, I sneak down in the middle of the night to the cupboard and taste all these different textures and flavors. I said, that's a brilliant essay. No college admissions officers ever read that one. I said, and remember, when you're writing them, it's got to be interesting because these poor souls are reading thousands of essays. My mother is my hero. They don't care. Just write about what you love. And I said, that's really brilliant. Depending on what maybe you want to go into chemistry with that one because you can.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what we try to get those little gems and polish them up for the students so that they're interesting. We had one young lady denied from an Ivy, and we called. We said, "Are you kidding?" The admissions officer said, "Listen, should be perfect academically, but her essay was all about her father, not about her." So those are the kinds of things,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you going into every aspect with the student? Your guidance counselors are going into everything? Do they go into the home life as well as school as well as outdoor?
Yeah, our counselors, we have college counseling's a large part of it, but we do a lot of social emotional support because students are more stressed today than I've ever seen them. I mean, stressed over everything. A young lady came in and said, this is their thinking. She failed a physics test. And I said, so? And she said, no, you don't understand. I said, what don't I understand? She said, not only did I fail physics, but this means I'm not going to get a good grade in the class. And this was like the beginning of the year. And I'm not going to get into a good college. And I said, so you're going to be a bag lady, homeless on the streets of New York. And she laughed. So it was funny. I said, and she had a particular college in mind because her parents had gone there. But they did not put pressure on her. She just had it in her head that this is where she needed to go. And I said, honey, it's one physics exam. I'll meet you in 40 years and you tell me if you remember this physics exam. I said, you can't stress about it. Don't worry about it. And the thing is, if there is an issue with students, the counselors know. And on the counselor recommendation, they can explain to the school what's going on. Because the school looks for anomalies in the transcript. So if you have a kid doing gangbusters the first 2 years, and then there's a dip in junior year, there's got to be a reason. So they go to the counselor recommendation to see, what happened? There may have been a death in the family. Maybe the student was suffering from a medical condition. But yeah, we do a lot of social emotional counseling with them. And really our goal, it's not therapy, it's just how are you doing, what's going on, to sort of get them in a headset so they can go back to class and be successful. We're probably one of the only, there are very few high schools in New Jersey who run groups. We run peer groups for students on different topics and also just to bring students together to sort of get a sense of what's going on and help them troubleshoot and work through issues. And what's great about a group is they work together. So if I hear you're having an issue and I'm a student, I can say, hey, listen to what I did. And they listen to each other because, we're the adults, so sometimes they glaze over.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's what we try to do.
Yeah, great. Well, we're getting to the end of our show.
Oh,
and
that was fast.
Yeah, see? So I usually ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to families that their sons and daughters are thinking about going to college, they go to their guidance counselor? What's the advice that you want to give to those families?
I would say make sure your child's picking based on a good fit. Don't think about the trophy schools as much as, is this the best choice for my child? Is it a good investment for them? And parents in particular, don't break the bank on this. Okay, try to minimize debt because the debt load that students have now is astronomical. And I frankly don't know how they're going to get from under this. This is, to me, a big national crisis, but no one seems to be screaming about it. So try to minimize the debt on yourselves and on your child. And look at community college as a viable option, particularly if you really can't afford it or your estimated family contribution is going to be too large, which is based on financial aid. and support your child in the choices that are good fits for them.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This was great.
No problem. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.